Okay, so welcome back to liveinpr.com's very own Puerto Rican life channel. So anyway, listen guys, so here's the thing. My name is Jeffrey Holst. I'm considering moving with my wife to Puerto Rico, to San Juan, Puerto Rico in particular. Now I have friends in San Juan, people that I've known for a while, and I'm very excited about the possibility of living there. There are a lot of great reasons why I want to live in San Juan. The majority of them come down to the fact that I need more ocean in my life. So I went to San Juan about 2.5 weeks ago with my friend Brian, and I came back after only 3 days convinced that now was the time to move. So turns out there is a ton of things that you need to know before you can move to San Juan, Puerto Rico. So, question is, what are those things? How do I work through those things? And, what am I thinking about now? So, here's what I've done so far. I'm just going to give you a little breakdown of the things that I've done in the last 2 weeks to think about Puerto Rico. So, the first thing I did is I started researching the process. So, it turns out for Americans, it's actually really relatively easy to move to Puerto Rico because Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, and U.S. citizens can therefore move to Puerto Rico without any trouble. So literally moving to Puerto Rico might be as simple as hopping a plane or jumping on a boat and then moving to Puerto Rico. It's no different than moving from one state to the next. Now, there is a little bit more to it than that, of course, because you're moving to an island in the middle of the ocean, right? It's not like you can rent a U-Haul and just drive yourself over there. So I had to start thinking about things like shipping, like how do I get my stuff to Puerto Rico? What does it cost to live in Puerto Rico? I mean, I've never rented in Puerto Rico other than to stay at the Caribe Hilton or another fancy hotel, $300-400 a night, and it turns out I cannot afford to pay $300 or $400 a night for 30 days of a month. 365 days a year or 190 days a year if I'm only there part of the time. The point is, I can't pay $400 a day to live, so I need to figure out the rent situation. So I started looking online and researching, trying to find apartments, watching YouTube videos on other people's channels, trying to see what they're paying in rent. And I found some really interesting stuff. But what I have since learned is that real estate moves very fast in Puerto Rico and really, frankly, everywhere at this time. So here's the thing. I'm sitting in my basement. It's, dark and dreary and all this stuff, right? But I'm sitting in my basement, Hickson, Tennessee, near Chattanooga, thinking about moving to Puerto Rico. I'm looking at my computer and I'm thinking, okay, I can find Puerto Rican houses to rent or buy. But the problem is, it's hard to find accurate information. For one thing, I don't speak Spanish. Un poquito español. I'm going to work on that because I think that's going to be part of the process of moving to a Spanish-speaking country. Now, one nice thing about Puerto Rico is they have a very high rate of English speakers as well. Their official languages are both English and Spanish. So while most local Puerto Rican people speak Spanish primarily as their first language, they oftentimes also speak at least some English, which means I don't have to learn Spanish just to get there. So if you're thinking about moving to Puerto Rico, you certainly can do so. You can just hop on a plane, find yourself in Puerto Rico, go rent a place and move right in. But like I said, maybe learn a little Spanish, maybe take a little bit of time to figure out where you want to live before you hop on the plane. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I started digging into this, like, where am I going to live? Like, what neighborhood do I want to live? I mean, I knew I wanted to live in San Juan generally. I wanted to live near the water, which kind of narrowed it down a little bit more. Kind of like the Isla Verde, Canado, and I'm probably pronouncing those things wrong because I don't speak Spanish and I need to learn more about this stuff. I like those areas. When I was there, I walked on the beach and thought, this looks like a nice place to live. So I just kind of started looking in those areas. And it turns out the way real estate works in Puerto Rico, it's hard to find good information. I mean, you can go to some classified ads places and find some stuff in Spanish, clasificados online, for example, and I'll try to tag that in the show notes here or in the video notes. But the reality is the best solution is to find a real estate agent, someone who can look for you and find for you, answer questions for you. So I started trying to do that. So I reached out to one of my friends in San Juan. He gave me the name of a couple of realtors. I had a couple of conversations with those realtors. And from there, I learned that I can probably rent a 2-bedroom condo, couple hundred feet, maybe 300-400 feet from the beach, clearly within walking distance of the beach, in the areas that I like, in a budget that works for me, like maybe $2,000, $2,500 a month. It's not going to be on the beach, but it might have a partially obstructed beach view. And I'm going to be able to go to the beach whenever I want. It's going to be within walking distance of various places, maybe even walking distance of like the grocery stores and restaurants. I might even not need a car. It would be amazing to live in a city without a car. Now, you can also buy a condo, probably $300,000 to $350,000 for the type of condo that I would want in the areas that I would want. Now, to live cheaper in other parts of the country, yeah, sure, you can. But I want to live in San Juan. I want to have an ocean view if possible. I definitely want to be able to walk to the beach, because if I'm going to move to the Caribbean, the goal is going to be to live in a place where I can enjoy the ocean. I can see the ocean. It's restful, it's peaceful, it's centering, it's healthy. One of my coaches, my life coach, my performance coach, I'm not really sure, life transformation coach is what he calls himself, Dr. Jamil Sayed. Dr. Jamil, he always says to me that grounding is really important, or earthing, which is like being in contact with the earth itself, bare skin on earth, right? Not in your house walking around barefoot, but like walking around barefoot outside in the sand, that counts. Being in the water, that counts. The earth acts as a giant battery, and it pulls this energy from you because it's like charged, right? So it takes all those free radicals, and it just sort of promotes healing. It reduces inflammation. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that when I'm by the ocean and when I'm walking on the beach or going for a swim in the ocean, I feel better for days afterwards. And I thought, why don't I go do that now? Why don't I live by the ocean? I certainly can, and so that's what I'm going to do. All right, so the next step that I had to look at is, okay, so I started looking at, neighborhoods and real estate and stuff. Then I started thinking, well, okay, can I take my health insurance with me? People who know me know that I have CML, chronic myeloid leukemia, very expensive drugs. It is what it is. Like, if I can't have health insurance, I can't go. I originally thought incorrectly that you could just keep your U.S. health insurance and it would work in Puerto Rico because it's part of the United States. But it turns out it's not part of the United States. I mean, it is in a way because it's a territory of the United States, but it's not a state. And the ACA rules, the Affordable Care Act that was passed under the Obama administration, applies to the 50 states. It does not apply to Puerto Rico. Now, there are separate companies that offer insurance in Puerto Rico, and it sounds like pre-existing condition limitations aren't going to be a problem for me, but I've got to figure that out. So that's kind of where I'm at now, is I'm trying to figure out, how do I solve this insurance? What's insurance going to cost? Because it turns out I don't have unlimited money. Now, I'm a real estate investor, and I'm going to continue to have some income from my real estate. I do a little bit of consulting. I'm going to ramp that up, or I'm going to do more consulting, because it's very tax favored in Puerto Rico if you follow the steps to get to do it correctly, right? You have to get an agreement with the government where you're starting a business there, where you're exporting services. There are different types of it, and it's way beyond the scope of this video to talk about how you do that, but I started researching that as well. It's originally called Act 20, Act 22. Now it's Act 60, right? So it's been replaced by Act 60. So if you want to Google this stuff, look at Act 20, Act 22, and Act 60, and you can kind of see what your options are. And you're going to want to find someone who specializes in this that can help you. I think it's possible, right? If you're a native Spanish speaker and you're very ambitious, you want to go there, figure out how to do the paperwork, get the government to sign an agreement with you, probably no problem. You probably can do it. It might take you 6 to 8 months to get it approved, but it's possible to do it. Unfortunately, I'm not in that category, and also I want to make sure it's done right. I don't want to mess it up, because one thing I don't want to do is move to Puerto Rico, establish residency. In order to be a Puerto Rican resident, you have to be there at least 183 days a year, and there's a little bit more to it as well. You really do have to move to Puerto Rico. This is not a fake thing. You can't just say, oh, I live in Puerto Rico. and I'm going to be there one day a year. Bought myself a condo. Doesn't work that way. Got to be there at least 183 days a year. You have to really be connected to the island. I mean, you're going to have to do all of the things that you do at home now in Puerto Rico. Doctors, health insurance, driver's license, voting, right? All that kind of stuff. It's got to be done. And there's a process for changing that stuff. And I started looking into that too, right? Like, how do I get my driver's license in Puerto Rico? What do I have to do that? Like, how do I get registered to vote in Puerto Rico? So there's so much stuff that you have to figure out. No, it's not overwhelming, but it is a process. And so I just wanted to give you guys a little update here. Still haven't fully decided. My first video, I said, shh, don't tell my wife. I'll put that one right up there. I'll try to tag it. Don't tell my wife I'm moving to Puerto Rico. Now I've talked to her about it, and she was leaning towards yes. That was our second video, right? I put that one up there too, if I can figure out how to do that. Said, she was leaning towards moving to Puerto Rico, and now she's leaning even more towards moving to Puerto Rico. So I think there's a really good chance that we're going to figure this out. But in order to figure it out, we do have to resolve the budget issues. We got to make sure that we're going to have enough money coming in from my business and from any kind of income we can produce once we arrive in Puerto Rico to pay our bills. We need to know what what the expense structure is going to be like. Are we going to pay $2,000 a month for rent, or are we going to pay $5,000 a month? Because it makes a difference. Because if we have to pay $5,000 a month for rent, I'm staying in Chattanooga. There's nothing else I can do about it. I'm going to live here. I like Chattanooga. There's nothing wrong with Chattanooga. It's a beautiful place. It just doesn't have enough ocean. For people who aren't familiar with Chattanooga, there's zero ocean here, right? Like, we're in the mountains. It's a nice place. I like it. I can walk out of my house and go climb a mountain. Not a big mountain, but it's still a mountain. It's not like Mount Kilimanjaro, the 4th highest mountain in the world, which I have climbed, so I can compare them. But it is still a mountain. It's still nice. It's beautiful. I've got a marina. Just if you could go out this window right here and down the street, down a steep hill. It's actually, because I live partially up the mountain, go down the steep hill to the water. You can find a little marina, and there's docks and boats and all this kind of stuff, but it's all fresh water, and there's turtles and mosquitoes and all that kind of stuff. But it's still not the ocean. I want to get underwater with the regulator and the BCD and go for a swim, do a little diving, maybe see an actual saltwater turtle, like, as opposed to the little turtles they got here like this. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to make this transition as soon as possible. But as I sit here right now, it's April 1st, 2021. And if I want to spend half of the year in Puerto Rico to establish residency, to get those tax advantages, I got to do it fast. I got to spend 183 days in Puerto Rico, and I have to be moved to Puerto Rico before July to do that. So I have like 2 months to get to Puerto Rico, maybe 3. I'm going to try. But if I don't move to Puerto Rico until January and can't establish residency until 2022, it's not the end of the world. But listen, I would love for anyone who watches this video to like the video, share the video with your friends, put it on your Facebook, talk about how cool would it be to move to Puerto Rico? Because the thing is, I want to move to Puerto Rico. There's got to be other people that want to move to Puerto Rico. And you know what? Even if you don't want to move to Puerto Rico, let's say you want to move to Belize. Doesn't matter. Same process. You've got to go through this process. You have to start researching where you're going to go, what it's going to cost, what's the budget look like, how are you going to take care of health insurance, how good are the hospitals, can you find a doctor, what if you need a cavity filled? Presumably most places have doctors and dentists and all that stuff, but as Americans, we have a certain standard that we're used to. And particularly the people that might be watching a video like this and thinking about packing it up and moving to the Caribbean, maybe for tax purposes, maybe just because they want to, maybe they just want more ocean in their life like me. Those types of people probably are used to the doctors that they have. And I know I am. I love my doctors. I have an oncologist in Michigan. That's something I have to figure out. If I move to Puerto Rico and I get Puerto Rican insurance, can I still see my doctor in Michigan? I go up there once a year. Just to check up, make sure everything's good. It's not a very expensive visit. So maybe I can just pay cash. I don't know, but I need to know the answer to these questions in order to fully understand whether or not it makes sense to go to Puerto Rico. So the next video I'm going to do, I'm going to try to get more specific about what it's like to go through this process. I'm certainly going to I'm going to talk to exciting news on this too. Another thing that I'm going to do is I am going to start interviewing people that have moved to other places, just because I want to talk to people that have gone and moved somewhere. So I'm going to start with my friend Mark Thornton, who has his own channel, Every Man Has a Story. He moved, he's an American, he grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. He moved to the Philippines a few years ago. Just up and moved to the Philippines. He didn't go through this process I'm describing. I just talked to him on my other show, Last Life Ever, where he told us that he just flew there to the Philippines with $600 in his pocket and figured, hey, it's cheaper to live in the Philippines than it is in the U.S., so I'm going to figure it out. That's crazy. I'm going to ask him, like, if you were going to do it again, would you? Like, what would you have done different? Things like that, because I want to understand how people make this decision, because it's a huge decision. I've never lived anywhere but the United States. I've lived in Michigan. I've lived in Tennessee. Even moving to Tennessee was a bit of a culture shock. Now we're talking about moving to a place where people speak a different language, and I'm surrounded by water, and there are tropical rainforests and mountains and beaches and hurricanes, earthquakes, bankruptcy, right? That's what they say. That's everything everyone knows about Puerto Rico. But what people don't know about San Juan, Puerto Rico, is that it is a first world country in the middle of the Caribbean, with movie theaters and great restaurants and 5-star dining and great infrastructure and just so much great stuff going for it. So I'm excited, and I can't wait to get to know people that live in Puerto Rico. So if you are watching this video and you've already made the move to Puerto Rico, please give me a comment. Send me an email. I will post my email below, but it is literally just the name of the channel. I mean, it's literally just it's on the channel. What is the email? It's live, LIVEPR, live in. So it's LIVEINPR @gmail.com. I think it's actually liveinpr. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's liveinpr.com @gmail.com. So you actually put in a .com. So it's LIVEINPR @gmail.com. I got it wrong again. I'm feeling kind of stupid, so I'm going to pause the video and look it up. Okay, I am back. So here's what it is. It's actually LIVEINPR.com @gmail.com. So liveinpr.com @gmail.com. So LIVEINPR.com @gmail.com. Now, I realize it's weird to have a .com in the middle of your email address, but quite honestly, liveinpr.com was the name of the website, which I haven't built yet, but I have bought the domain, and I thought, why not? And so that's the email, liveinpr.com @gmail.com. So liveinpr.com @gmail.com if you want to email me, or just put it in the comments below. Tell us what your experience has been like. If you want to be interviewed on this channel, like if you live in Puerto Rico right now and you maybe just recently moved there, I definitely want to talk to you. So please let me know about that if you would like to be on the channel. So anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed this brief video about where I'm at right now, and I can't wait to share more as I continue to learn about living in Puerto Rico, about moving to Puerto Rico. Ooh, and one other thing, exciting news. One of my good friends is considering moving to Puerto Rico as well, and that will make my time in Puerto Rico so much better, because one of the things that scares me the most about moving to Puerto Rico is the same thing that scared me about moving to Tennessee, and that is I don't know anyone in Puerto Rico. I mean, I said at the beginning of the video, I have a couple of friends there, and that's true, but they're only sort of tangential friends. Like, for example, the famous economic prognosticator, Harry Dent. I know him. I had lunch with him a few weeks ago when I was in Puerto Rico, but I don't anticipate me hanging out with Harry Dent every single day while I'm in Puerto Rico. It just doesn't seem likely. For one thing, he's my dad's age. He's not my age. For another thing, he's Harry Dent. He's probably got better things to do. And you know what? I am going to try to get Harry Dent to come on this very channel. Who knows? Maybe he'll do it. And if he does, we'll make sure you see it. So anyway, have a great day. And please reach out if there's anything I can do to help you in your journey as you consider moving to Puerto Rico, or if you have already made the move and you can help me, that's even better, because that's what I really need. Thank you so much. And if you're enjoying my content, please subscribe, ring the little bell, and let me know you did. Thanks.